Hello there, everybody, and welcome. My name is Tamir Moore, and welcome to the latest episode here on my YouTube channel. Also, I will invite you to follow me on social media as I often post there a lot. You can check out the links to my Twitter and Instagram profiles on this intro screen. And one last quick thing, you can check out my latest video by clicking the card in the upper right corner. And now it is time to start today's featured episode. And now, here is Tamir Moore in the home studio for the filming of episode 8 of What You Need to Know. From MetLife Stadium in East Rutherford, New Jersey, Fox Sports presents the NFL. Today, a NFC matchup for you here in week number 11. As Josh Jacobs and the 5-3-1 Green Bay Packers take on Tyrone Tracy Jr. and the 2-8 New York Football Giants. And with that, we walk you inside the studio. Hi, everybody. I'm Tamir Moore. It's great to have you with us. Welcome to this week's episode of What You Need to Know. Today, we are previewing the Week 11 matchup as the Green Bay Packers visit the New York Giants. Hope you had a good week. A couple of housekeeping items to take care of before we get into the show today. Last week, we previewed the Week 10 game between the Rams and the 49ers. If you have not checked that video out, you can do so at this moment in time by clicking the card in the upper right corner. It is great to be back for our 8th episode. Hard to believe this is week 11, man. This year is flying by. Thanksgiving less than 2 weeks away. So it's crazy how quickly 2025 is starting to move along. Make sure you like, subscribe, and share this channel because we are trying to continue to grow and build our YouTube community. And let's see how many subscribers that we are currently at right now. We're still at 55 subscribers, so we're still 45 subscribers short of where we need to be. As I mentioned before on this program, we are trying to get to 100 subscribers by the end of 2025. There's a month and a half left in 2025, so please get out the word. Try to tell people about the channel. The more subscribers we get, the better off we will be. And remember, the more likes and more subscriptions you provide to the channel, the better that we can get in the algorithm. The algorithms really like the likes and subscriptions, and our show will be a lot easier for you to find. So keep that in mind as you take that announcement, if you will. Also, please make sure you hit the notification bell so you'll be notified of all of our latest content. We post every single week here, so you like football and you like the stuff that we are doing here, then this is definitely the place for you to be because we are your home for football content on a weekly basis. Okay. Sorry for that interruption there. But with that in mind, let's get into the show because we have a lot to get into today. Let's give you a quick overview of what we'll be talking about today. We're going to start off with the reference notes, then the injury report. It's been a crazy week for the Giants. We got some quotes that I want to share with you guys. We'll talk about the playoff picture. We'll talk about the game capsule and anything else that I deem necessary to talk about while we are together here today will also be discussed as well. Without any further ado, let's start off with the reference notes for this week's clash between the Packers and the Giants. Jordan Love and the Green Bay Packers 5-3-1 visit Jameis Winston and the New York Giants 2-8 this week in an NFC conference matchup from MetLife Stadium. This is the 65th all-time meeting between the Green Bay and the Giants, with the Packers leading the all-time series 34 wins, 28 losses, and 2 ties. Last week, the Packers fell to the defending Super Bowl champion Philadelphia Eagles 10-7 on Monday Night Football. Following that game, the Vikings will be visiting Lambeau Field in Green Bay, as the Vikings and Packers will meet in a huge NFC North game next Sunday, November 23rd at 1 p.m. Eastern, noon Central Time here on Fox. As for the Giants, it has been a tumultuous and crazy week. There's been a lot of changes with the Giants since the last time you saw the Giants take the field last week. That embarrassing 24-20 loss to Chicago, and with the Giants blew a fourth-quarter lead. And what else is new? At least 4 times this year, the Giants had a lead in the fourth quarter and go on to lose. Week 2 against the Cowboys, that crazy overtime shootout game down in Arlington. Week 5, fourth-quarter lead at New Orleans, blow that game and lose. Week 7, of course, that 19-point lead you had against Denver, found a way to blow that. And then, of course, last week, the Giants had a late lead in the game. Chicago came back with a couple of touchdown drives, and the Giants lost yet again, as last week was the 4th straight time that the Giants have suffered defeat. And because of that, the Giants were forced to make a change at the head coaching position. We found out on Monday that Giants head coach Brian Daboll was fired and relieved of his duties. It is not hard to see why. After an ugly 2-8 start, the Giants ownership brass is enough is enough. We got to get a fresh voice in here. And we have a joint statement right now. This is from the article from The Score, which is a good research for you sports fans. They have good articles by folks who know what they're talking about. And Daniel Valente wrote this article, as you can see right here. I'm not sure you can see it, but this is an article that Daniel wrote, and I printed it out. And I want to give my man Daniel some credit before we dissect his article for the purposes of this program. So as I mentioned before, we have a joint statement from Giant President John Mara and Giant Chairman Steve Tisch, and I'm going to read that statement for you now. It says, quote, "We spoke this morning about the direction of our franchise on the field, and we have decided at this time it is in our best interest to make the change at the head coaching position." This is what Giants President John Mara and Chairman Steve Tisch said in a joint statement. The statement went on to say, quote, "The past few seasons have been nothing short of disappointing, and we have not met our expectations for this franchise," end quote. And you understand why the Giants had to make this change, right? Brian Daboll and the Giants, this relationship was not going to work out, right? The Giants are a sinking ship. They come in here 2-8. They've lost 4 in a row. The Giants started the season 0-3. They brought in Jackson Dart. Jackson Dart gave the Giants a sense of hope, something Giant fans have not had a lot of over the last several years. They won 2 of 3. They beat the Chargers. They beat Philadelphia. 2 opponents inside of a 3-week stretch. Since then, though, the Giants have struggled to put wins on the board. They've lost 4 straight, and the Giants are trying to avoid their 5th consecutive loss this week against the Green Bay Packers. Giant GM Joe Shane will keep his job, and he will be responsible for leading the effort to get a new head coach for the Giants. But for now, though, offensive coordinator Mike Kafka will be serving as the interim head coach for the Giants. I listened to Coach Kafka, his press conference gave to the media on Friday evening. Very impressed with his comments. Obviously, a very crazy situation, right? You were the offensive, coordinator for the Giants, and now Kafka is the new head coach of the Giants. Let's see. Hopefully I'm not missing nothing. Hang on a second, folks. Just want to see something. Here. Hang on. Just want to see something. Did they mention it in the article? Hang on. Okay, yes. So, yes. So, offensive coordinator Mike Kafka will serve as the interim head coach. This is Daniel's article on The Score. I'm reading it off my computer screen. This is why I'm not focusing on camera, so don't worry. I'm not trying to abandon you. I know you guys are on that camera screen over there. I'm trying to read something off to the left. Dable's firing comes at the time that the Giants are sputtering out of control. They're 2-8 for the first straight year. They had a 10-point lead last week at Soldier Field against the Bears, found a way to lose. They were up 20-10, gave up the final 14 points of the game in a 4-minute span. During his tenure with the Giants, Brian Dable compiled a record of 20-40-1, which is obviously abysmal, right? You expect a coach to put up better record than that, considering the fact that you're coaching the New York Football Giants. They represent the largest media market in the country, and the Giants have been very underwhelming. Yes, Brian Dable led them to the playoffs in 2022, but ever since then, the Giants have been close to what they were 3 seasons ago, where the Giants made the postseason with a 9-7-1 record. And the Giants actually won a playoff game that year. They won a wild card game against Minnesota before ultimately losing to Jalen Hurts and the Philadelphia Eagles in the divisional round the following week. Kafka will mark the 6th head coach the Giants have had over the last 10 years, joining Ben McAdoo, Steve Spagnuolo, who is now, of course, the defensive coordinator in Kansas City, Pat Shurmur, Joe Judge, and Brian Dable, the 5 previous gentlemen before Mike Kafka taking the job on an interim basis. We will see if Kafka becomes the full-time coach next year, but that remains to be seen, right? You just got to take it one day and 1 week at a time. So obviously, the Giants have a new coach leading them this week. But as you know, if you've been following the Giants, that's not the only change in New York with the Giants this week. The Giants have a new starting quarterback, the veteran Jameis Winston, the 11th year man out of Florida State, the former number 1 overall pick by Tampa Bay back in 2015, out of Florida State, won a Heisman Trophy back in 2013. He will be the starting quarterback for the Giants this week, as Jackson Dart, who was the rookie out of Ole Miss, who the Giants picked up early in the draft this year, got hurt last week in Chicago, got knocked out the game, did not return. He's in the concussion protocol. He will not play this week, and that should not be a surprise. We'll talk more about that in the injury report in just a second. But Jameis Winston gets the nod over Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson, who was the number 2 quarterback prior to this week. Remember, Russell Wilson came in last week when Dart went out. But Jameis Winston, who started the season as the number 3 quarterback behind Wilson and Dart, Jameis Winston goes from the number 3 quarterback to the number 1 quarterback. So you talk about a rapid ascension for Jameis Winston. And Jameis is very grateful to have this opportunity. I listened to his press conference on Friday. He was very excited about starting for the Giants. And Jameis told a story about he was in Bible study when he found out that Brian Dable was fired. But despite that, Jameis Winston is going to be prepared for this game. He is a veteran quarterback, and obviously, if you're the Green Bay Packers, you got to prepare for Jameis Winston. He has veteran experience. He's been around football for a long period of time, and I cannot wait to see what Jameis Winston has in store this week. And of course, interim head coach Mike Kafka of the Giants made that announcement on Wednesday. That's according to ESPN's Adam Schefter. So we'll see how long Dart will be out. Dart will be out for at least this game. We'll see about his status moving forward. Giants are at Detroit next week, so we'll see what his status is for that game. But for at least this week, Jameis Winston will be man under center for the New York Giants. Jameis Winston is known to getting offenses going, but Jameis Winston, as you know, has thrown a lot of interceptions during his NFL career. In fact, he has thrown 154 touchdowns. That's the good news. The bad news is he has thrown 111 interceptions across 105 games. Winston's been around, most recently with the Cleveland Browns last season in 2024, where he recorded 13 touchdowns and threw 12 picks. And Mike Kafka also announced this week that Tim Kelly will serve as the new offensive coordinator. Kafka was previously in that role, but obviously he's the head coach now. So Kafka is naming Tim Kelly to replace him essentially as the OC. So everybody in the Giants coaching staff essentially getting bumped up one spot, if you know what I mean. So yeah, it's been a crazy week for the New York Giants. Obviously, the Giants, it's the start of a new era. It's the start of the Mike Kafka era. And for Jameis Winston, he gets the chance to show people that Jameis Winston's not washed up yet. So I'm excited for Kafka. I'm excited for Jameis Winston and the Giants. Obviously, massive underdog coming into this game. And it's now hard to see why, right? Because the New York Giants are 2-8. Their season basically over by a miracle. You're facing a Packers team that desperately needs this game. So if you're the New York Giants, if you get an upset here and win this game, that will be something because no one's expecting the Giants to win this game. Okay, that is it for section 1. Let's move into the playoff picture let's talk about the playoff picture before we move into the injury report, and then we'll go from there. Let's look at the NFC standing. The Packers currently 7th with a record of 5-3-1. Right now, Green Bay will be the last team in the NFC playoff field, but the Packers don't have a lot of margin for error, however, especially when San Francisco and Carolina are lurking. Keep in mind, Green Bay has already lost to Carolina this season. Carolina won the Lambeau Field 2 weeks ago, beat Green Bay 16-13. Ryan Fitzgerald, the young kicker for Carolina, hit a game-winning field goal. Time expired in that game. So if you're the Green Bay Packers, this is a game they have to win because Green Bay has a really difficult schedule. You have Minnesota twice, including next week. You have Chicago twice. You haven't played the Bears yet. You still have to play Detroit on Thanksgiving. And by the way, we will be covering that game for Thanksgiving Day for the Week 13 game that we will be doing. It will be Packers versus Lions. So we'll see the Packers again very, very soon. You still have to play Baltimore. You still have to go to Denver later this year as well. So that is a very arduous schedule for Green Bay. They have to win this one because you lose this game, your logo room starts to decrease. And the Green Bay Packers are currently in a competitive National Football Conference, which sees Philadelphia and Seattle at the top, tied with 7-2 records. They had Detroit and Tampa Bay at 6-3. Then the Rams, the number 5 seed, at 7-2. Bears 6-3. You had the Packers at 5-3-1. And then you see at the bottom of the NFC playoff picture, the Giants are 2-8. Giants season basically over, barring a miracle. Giants have to basically run the table, and even that may not be enough for them to get in. So obviously, if you're the Giants, you're just trying to pull out the strings, trying to finish the season the right way. Maybe try to get some wins late in the year and pull some wins out that the Giants probably shouldn't have. So that's the situation as far as the playoff picture is concerned as we enter Week 11. As Thanksgiving is coming up, that means the playoff picture will become pretty commonplace for us to be talking about over the next couple of weeks as the postseason draw closer by the week. Okay, time now for the injury report. This is one of my favorite segments of the show. I'm basically channeling my inner Jay Glazer here as far as who's in and who is out. Let's start with the Green Bay Packers. The Packers have a lot of folks on the injury report this week, but that does not mean necessarily that the Packers are going to be shorthanded and lose a lot of players. In fact, most of the folks on this injury report are good to go and expected to play in today's game against the Giants. Let's start with Packers linebacker Edgerrin Cooper, dealing with a foot injury. He was limited in practice on Wednesday, full participant Thursday and Friday. He's good to go for today's game. Packers wide receiver Romeo Doubs, he's been dealing with a chest injury, full participant all week. He's expected to play Sunday. Defensive lineman for the Packers, Kinsley Mbarwe, has been dealing with a knee injury, limited practice this week. He will be given it a go for today's game. Wide receiver Christian Watson, dealing with a knee and hamstring injury. Limited participant in practice Thursday and Friday. He's expected to play Sunday. I listened to Christian Watson during one of his press conferences this week, and he's excited, and he says that I'm good to go for Sunday. So Christian Watson is giving you the benefit of the doubt that he'll be lacing him up, and he'll be playing Sunday in this game against the Giants. Guard Aaron Banks, just getting some rest, did not participate in Friday practice. He's good to go. Micah Parsons, always love listening to Micah Parsons talk, the former Dallas Cowboy. Packers, of course, acquired him in that blockbuster trade before the start of the season. And Micah Parsons said during his press conference this week something along the lines of every game's a must-win from this point forward, including the playoffs. And he's right. because after this 2-game mini skid, the Green Bay Packers have kind of put themselves into a corner a little bit. Every game's a must-win the rest of the way, regardless of who it's against. So Micah Parsons, that's a very accurate comment on his part. He knows football pretty very well. He's been dealing with a pec injury as far as Micah is concerned, but Micah is expected to play here today. Packers offensive lineman Zach Tom dealing with a back injury, limited participant in practice all week. He's good to go. Now, also players, I should say, who are good to go. Quay Walker, linebacker for Green Bay, calf injury, full participant Thursday, Friday. He's good to go for today. And Packers wide receiver Dontavian Wicks, calf injury, just like Quay Walker, limited participant in practice all week. He's good to go today as well. Now, as far as players who are questionable are concerned, Packers wide receiver Savion Williams dealing with a foot injury, limited participant all week. He's questionable for this game. Lucas Van Ness, Packers defensive lineman, foot injury, limited participant Thursday, Friday, questionable for the game. And then Packers wide receiver Matthew Golden dealing with a shoulder injury, limited participant in practice Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. He's questionable for this game. And cornerback Nate Haas for the Packers is out with the knee injury. Now, as far as the Giants are concerned, unfortunately, they have a lot more players out than Green Bay does, as at least 5 Giant players are out for this game. As we all know, Jackson Dart is not going because of the concussion injury, as I explained earlier. Giant defensive lineman Chauncey Golston is dealing with a neck injury. He will not play today. Evan Neal, Giants tackle, hamstring injury. He's out for today. Wide receiver Darius Slayton, who led the team in yards last week against the Bears, he's out. That's a big loss. So the Giants are going to be shorthanded one of their top receivers. So one less target for Jameis Winston to throw to this week. And, of course, the great young outside linebacker Kayvon Thibodeau out of Oregon. Shoulder injury. He did not participate in practice. He's out for this game as well. So that's a big loss. So the Giants have a big loss on the offensive side and the defensive side. Now, as far as players who are doubtful, we have Tyler Nubin, the safety, neck injury, did not participate. He's doubtful, so likely he's not going to play. And Giants defensive lineman Nakeem Nunez-Roches, toe injury, did not participate in practice. He's doubtful, so he's likely not going to play as well. But there are several players on this injury report that are expected to play. Tight end Daniel Bellinger, groin injury, good to go. John Michael Smith Jr., Giants center, shin injury, limited participant all week. He's expected to play. Giants tackle Jermaine Illuminor, pectoral injury, limited participant in practice Thursday, Friday. He's expected to play today. Giants linebacker Demetrius Flanagan-Fowles, the former 49er, pec injury just like Illuminor, limited participant on Thursday, full participant on Friday. He's expected to play today as well. So that is the injury report. I know that's a lot to absorb there, but if you need to, pause the video at certain points so you can get a clearer picture depending on which side of the coin you are on, perhaps, if you are a Packers fan or a Giants fan watching this, because I know a lot of people are intrigued by these injury reports because you want to see who's playing and who's not. If somebody, is playing, you want to know. If someone's not playing, you want to know that too. Okay. That is it for the injury report, and let's get into the game capsule. This is something that I always enjoy bringing to you guys each and every single week. So, the Packers are traveling to New Jersey this week to square off against the Giants. That a team that's been through some very major changes. Obviously, we told you about the Jameis Winston situation. Mike Kapka replacing Brian Dable, who was fired. So, if you're the New York Giants, it's the start of a new era against a Green Bay team that is desperate for a win. 2 longtime NFC rivals squaring off again. We have a special historical note that we'll share toward the end of the show today that I think you'll really like. Okay, let's start with the Green Bay Packers, the road team here this afternoon. The Packers have lost 2 consecutive games entering this Week 11 matchup. And how many keys do we have to present to the folks this week? 21. Okay, we have a lot of keys. Okay, 21 keys, everybody. So we will try to get through each of those 24 keys. So, as I said, 2 straight losses for Green Bay. This is basically a must win for the Packers. They have to have it because you lose this game, then things get pretty dicey as we go down the stretch. Let's start with key number 1. Let's look at the Green Bay offense last week against Philadelphia. 7 points, 5 of 13 on third down, 1 red zone trip, under 14 points in back-to-back games. Last week, the Packer offense faced some significant challenges. The Packers have scored 27 or more points in 6 games this season. Is either feast or famine. Either Green Bay score points or they don't score at all. The Packers have only averaged 10 points per game over the last 2 weeks, right? 13 points against Carolina in week 9, 7 points last week against Philadelphia. So the Packers, they got to get this offense figured out because the Packers can't score points. You're not going to win a lot of games, and therefore you're not going to go where you want to go, which is obviously the Super Bowl. So the Green Bay Packers have a lot of things to work on heading into this week's matchup against the Giants. Key number 2, Packers quarterback Jordan Love, week 10 against the Philadelphia Eagles, the reigning Super Bowl champions, 176 yards, 4.9 yards per attempt, a quarterback rating of 68.7. The thing about the Packers that's concerning that Jordan Love has posted a sub-90 quarterback rating during all 3 of Green Bay's losses this season. Week 3 against the Browns, Week 9 against Carolina, and Week 10 against Philadelphia. In other words, Love has been very unpredictable at times, and the Packers need Love to figure it out if the Packers are capable of making a deep playoff run. Key number 3, Giants pass defense, week 10 at Bears. Last week, Giants pass defense had the assignment of defending Bears quarterback Caleb Williams. Williams tossed for 220 yards, and he had a quarterback rating of 83.1. A okay performance for the Giants pass defense with tons of room for refinement and improvement. So far in 2025, the Giants pass defense is averaging a quarterback rating of 95.1, with the 20th in the NFL, and they're averaging 230.9 yards per game, which is 23rd in the NFL. Key number 4, Giants defense, week 10 at Bears. 24 points, 3 of 11 on third down, 3 and 4 in the red zone. Versus Bears quarterback Caleb Williams, the Giants allowed him to put up 63 rushing yards against them, and Caleb Williams did score a rushing touchdown last week against the New York Football Giants. They conceded 24 points. They allowed Chicago a 75% rate in the red zone area, which is good if you're Chicago, pretty bad if you're the Giants. So you're facing Green Bay, a fellow NFC North team this week. You got to find a way to get that success rate 50% or below, right? If you hold Green Bay to 25% or 0%, that's really good. But if you allow 75% in red zone, that's not good. You're not going to win if you allow teams to constantly score against you. So the Giants are going to have to find a way to tighten up the screws once you get inside the 20-yard line. Key number 5, Giants pass rush week 10 at Chicago. Last week, again, they faced Caleb Williams, and unfortunately, the Giants pass rush had a tough time getting the young quarterback out of USC on the ground. In fact, Caleb Williams was clean. He was not sacked once last week in the football game in the 36 passes that Caleb Williams, had on the day. An awful and dreadful effort from the Giants pass rush unit. They're going to have to find a way to generate pass rush against Jordan Love. The secondary of the Giants allowed over 50 yards to 2 rookie players from the Bears last week. Wide receivers Luther Burden and Colston Loveland. Furthermore, the defense of the Giants conceded more than 80 yards along with a touchdown to Bears wide receiver Rome Odunze. Key number 6, Packers pass rush week 10 versus Eagles. Last week, Jordan Love was sacked 3 times in 36 pass attempts against Philadelphia. Jordan Love been sacked 3 times or more in 2 of the 3 Packers losses so far. Against Cleveland in week 3, as a matter of fact, he was sacked 5 times in that ball game. That's the game in which the Packers lost by a final score of 13-10. Key number 7, Packers wide receiver Christian Watson, week 10 versus Eagles. 4 targets, 2 receptions for 45 yards. He was, all right, make sure this is still key number 7. He was the lone Packer to have over 40-plus yards during the loss on Monday night. It was a struggle for most of the Green Bay wide receivers, but Christian Watson, when you're the only player to have over 40 yards during a game, that's a really telling sign. Packers wide receiver Dontavian Wick was targeted 9 times, only picked up 38 yards. Wide receiver Romeo Doubs of the Packers was limited to just 5 yards on Monday night. Key number 8, Packers running back Josh Jacobs, week 10 versus Eagles. 21 attempts, 75 yards, 3.5 yards per carry, and a touchdown. Jacobs has been scoring touchdowns at a pretty regular rate recently. He has had at least 1 touchdown in 6 straight games now, in 8 of his last 9. Jacob had some significant contributions last week against the Eagles, scoring the Packers' only touchdown of the game via a rushing touchdown. So Josh Jacobs showed up. Most of his teammates did not. And that's going to have to change because you can't just rely on your run game. The passing game is rendered ineffective. So the passing game is going to have to step up and help out the running game here. All right, key number 9. Back to the Giants now. Giants rush defense week 10 at Bears. 28 attempts, 171 yards, 6.1 yards per carry, 2 touchdowns. The Giants have one of the worst run defenses in the league. So if you're Josh Jacobs, you can go crazy against this Giants rush defense. They are averaging 5.5 yards per carry, which is 32nd, or in other words, last in football, which is obviously pitiful, to be quite honest with you. Last week, the Giants allowed Chicago to basically run wild with no resistance whatsoever. So keep that in the back of your mind. Key number 10, Packers defense versus the Eagles in week 10. 10 points, 7 of 16 on third down, 1 red zone trip. Green Bay did a fine job defensively against a sputtering and stagnant Eagle team. I think the Eagles' offense is better than what it is right now, but the Packers' defense, though, did a great job of trying to lock down this Philadelphia team. We have Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown, 2 skilled wide receivers playing for that team. But the Packers' defense did their job. The offense didn't, and that's the reason why they lost the game. You need offense and defense to act in lockstep, and that was not the case last week. Key number 11, Packers pass defense week 10 against Eagles quarterback and reigning Super Bowl 59 MVP Jalen Hurts, 183 yards, touchdown, quarterback rating of 92.3. A solid effort against a really good quarterback and the reigning Super Bowl MVP, as I mentioned a moment ago. The Packers are facing Jameis Winston this week, who is filling in for Jackson Dart, who is still in professional protocol, didn't clear it, so he can't go. We'll see about status next week at Detroit, but Jameis Winston, at least for this week, gets to start, and we'll see what Winston does. And maybe if Jameis Winston shows some flashes, maybe the Giants move the ball, maybe the Giants get a win, maybe Jackson Dart can sit out a little bit while longer. Jameis Winston gets a little bit more run. So that's something that we will monitor as we move forward here. Key number 12, Giants rookie quarterback Jackson Dart. This was a bummer. I watched the game last week against the Bears, getting ready for this. And Jackson Dart and the Giants, they moved the ball. They were efficient. The Giants had some pep in their step when Jackson Dart was in. Once he was out, the Giants got completely stagnant. Once Russell Wilson came in, the Giants' offense was basically grounded. They couldn't do anything. Jackson Dart, last week before he had the lead, when he lost that fumble, got hurt on it, 242 yards, 8.3 yards per attempt, and a quarterback rating of 91.5. In fact, in 6 of 7 starts this season, he had a quarterback rating of 90 or better, which is obviously great. So obviously, we are praying for Jackson Dart. Hopefully, he returned to good health. Hopefully, he's back in the Giants starting lineup, because the Giants really feel confident in this young man. If they did not, they would not draft Jackson Dart this year in the draft if they didn't feel like Jackson Dart has some value and had a chance to make his own mark in the years ahead, and which he'll still have a chance to do. Key number 13, Giants offense week 10 at Bears. 20 points, 5 for 14 on third down, 1 for 4 in the red zone. The Giants so far this season, their offense is averaging 21.7 points per game. It looked like the Giants were going to score the correct amount of points last week against the Bears until they did not. They struggled on third down, 25%, which is abysmal in the red zone. They got to shore that up. Key number 14, Giants offense week 10 at Bears. 4 sacks split between Dart and Wilson with 2 sacks each and 36 pass attempts. The Giants have allowed 4 sacks in 3 of their last 4 games. So the Giants the Giants protection up front must do a better job protecting the quarterback, and they now know Jameis Winston, the guy they're going to be protecting this week. Key number 15, Giants quarterback Jackson Dart, and this is one of the things that they're really excited about with him, right? And once Jackson Dart comes back, his ability to impact the running game. I watched Jackson Dart tape getting ready for this game. I watched the game last week, and the fact of the matter is this guy is a really good runner, right? He had 6 rushes last week for 66 yards. He scored a pair of rushing touchdowns, 11 yards per carry, man. That's exceptional. So this young man has a moxie. He has an endearing characteristic about him that he is very relatable. He's a guy you can easily root for. And Jackson Dart has the entire city on his back. In fact, think about this stat right here that I found out while researching, getting ready for this video in this game. Dart is the first rookie quarterback with a rushing touchdown in 5 consecutive games. And the strength of his is his running. And of course, he lost a fumble last week, suffered a concussion, and he's out with it this week. And hopefully he'll be back very soon. The Giants did get a good outing from Tyrone Tracy Jr. last week against the Bears in week 10. 14 rushes, 71 yards, 5.1 yards per carry. Key number 17, Packers rush defense, week 10 versus Eagles running back Saquon Barkley, who of course rushed for over 2,000 yards last year, 60 yards, 2.7 yards per carry. Saquon's having a really tough year, by the way. That helped the fact the Eagles' offensive line is banged up, starting to get a little bit old. That's the good news. Bad news is the Packers defensive backs gave up 40-plus receiving yards to Saquon Barkley, 40-plus yards to tight end Dallas Goedert. Obviously, the touchdown Devontae Smith scored in the second half was huge, and that ultimately put the Eagles, in front for good. For good. It was a 10-7. Oh, excuse me. Devontae Smith, I should say. Let me backtrack on that. Huge touchdown for Devontae Smith in the second half of the game. And Jalen Hurts threw a beauty down the left side. Devontae Smith with the big hands, with the touchdown reception. And that turned out to be a significant touchdown in the game. Because remember, the Eagles only had 1 touchdown last week in that 10-7 win in Green Bay. Devontae Smith caught the only touchdown in the game. Okay, 4 more keys to go. Key number 18, Giants wide receiver Darius Slayton. Week 10 at Bears, and obviously Darius Slayton is out, so a big injury for the Giants, a big miss today. 4 targets, 4 receptions, 89 yards for Slayton. Led the team in yards. He had 60-plus pass yards in back-to-back games, so that's big productivity that the Giants don't have today. Key number 19, Giants tight end Philo Johnson, week 10 at Bears. 8 targets, 7 receptions, 75 yards, season high in yards. Key number 20, Giants wide receiver Rondale Robinson, week 10 at Bears. 11 targets, 6 receptions, for 62 yards. He has had at least 6 receptions or more in 5 of the last 6 games. So he's been playing some really good ball. Wandale's coming along very nicely, and he's going to get an elevated role perhaps with Darius Slayton out of the football game this week with the hamstring injury. And finally, Giants running back Devin Singletary, 3 targets, 3 receptions, 53 yards as a receiver in Week 10 at the Bears. As you know, these are 2 legendary franchises. The Giants beat the Packers 6-0 in their first meeting back in 1928. How about this for you for a historical fact? As I promised earlier in this program, the highest scoring game in the series history between Green Bay and the Giants came back in 1971. On September 19th of that year, the Giants played the Packers to start off that season, and Green Bay and the Giants put up offensive numbers that are really good to see. The Giants clipped the Packers 42-40, a game with 82 combined points were registered. We're not going to see 80 plus points this week, obviously, but that's something that I thought you would like to know. Let me say this. This is not the first time that we've covered the Giants. We covered the Giants way back in the first episode that we did on this show back in Week 1 when the Giants opened the season against the Washington Commanders. It's the second time that I've done a Giants game. If you would like to learn more about the Giants Week 1 game and how they started their season this year, you can do so right now by clicking the card in the upper right corner. Wow. Runtime, 40 minutes. Wow, this could be a long video to edit and put together and put out there on the YouTube. And of course, you can find what you need to know, highlights and show clips on Instagram, on Facebook, and on X. So do not miss a moment of the action. I promise I got you guys. Next week, we will be back with you for episode 9, week 12. We'll have the America's Game of the Week, a NFC East matchup as A.J. Brown and the Philadelphia Eagles take on Dak Prescott and the Dallas Cowboys. We'll be back with you next week for pregame coverage and analysis before that game, so make sure you tune in then. A reminder, as we wrap this thing up, make sure you like, make sure you subscribe, make sure you share, make sure you hit that notification bell so you won't miss any of our latest content. We post here every single week. I want you to be here. I want you to be part of our family with us. And I really appreciate you watching me each and every single week. I love doing this, as I said before. And as long as you guys keep watching, if you want me to continue to do this, I will be here for you because I love football. And I love to share my knowledge of this great game with all of you listening. And thank you for watching, regardless of where you're listening from your tablet, from your phone, from your computer, wherever you're listening from. If you're listening in the United States, United Kingdom, Canada, wherever, I appreciate all the viewership that this series has received. And I cannot wait to talk to you guys next week to get ready for the Eagles and the Cowboys. That is it for episode 8 of What You Need to Know. Please enjoy Packers versus Giants and all of the Week 11 NFL action. So until next week, this is Tamir Moore signing off. Thanks for joining us. Enjoy your week. Take care of yourselves and each other. Just want to test that little wave out. So long, everybody, and we'll see you soon. What's up, guys? It's Tamir Moore. I appreciate you for watching today's video, and I look forward to seeing you next time for another YouTube video. In the meanwhile, don't forget to like and subscribe, and also check out my social media profiles and my YouTube profile, which I provided in this outro screen. So long, everybody, and have a great day.